Right, good morning guys, Melissa here. Busy night last night, getting a lot down in videos, working at it. How do you work at relationships, guys? You have to do the work. You have to communicate. You have to be able to go through things, right? So I talk about my family. That has been my biggest disappointment, my extended family, not my guys, my extended family, with making up accusations about me. Instead of having a conversation, which most normal people do, they have chosen to bring upon me a lot of accusations. Hold on, I'm getting hot. I thought it was menopause, guys. You know what it is? It's the plasma. I didn't realize this. I was looking at the signs yesterday, no, the other day when I did plasma. Signs of problems with plasma. And I'm like, oh, shoot, because I don't always read it. And I'm like, no wonder I haven't been feeling good. Because they actually have, I read this before and I didn't have a problem, but they have notices. If you're feeling dizzy, which I did the other day, since, what was it, Saturday? Yesterday I worked, I was fine. But it has been off and on, the magnesium, the low magnesium, and I've been feeling that. And I'm actually wondering if that's part of my problem too, with just feeling the hot sweats, and then I'm cold, and then I'm hot. I thought it was menopause, but I'm like, every time you do plasma lately, you're getting dizzy. So, I don't know if I'll still do plasma, guys. Honestly, I don't know. It could be working against me. So, but there was a time for it. You don't have a lot of choices when you don't have work, and a lot of people have to depend on that just to make it with gas or whatever. Anyways, back to what I was saying. So, what do we do with family that just tries to destroy you guys? And you're like, what? What the heck? Why is this happening? Why is this trial happening? What did I do? What in the world did I do to deserve this, right? So when I was growing up, my brother was the black sheep. My brother was. My grandmother had a problem with men. She didn't like men for some reason, and she used men to get stuff, right? When you love a man, you're not going to prostitute, right? So she didn't love men. She used them to get what she wanted, and she knew how to manipulate, and she knew how to get what she wanted with men. And then my mother, because of everything she went through, was not very good to my brother. She tried to say, oh, now we're good. But when you do stuff to a kid, it takes a lifetime to get over. So my brother was the black sheep. He was the black sheep probably because of my grandmother and then my mother. So, things happen in life and you're like, why are they happening? Why do I have to go through this? Why didn't my parents have kids if they don't like kids? And that's the weird thing, because my father always treated kids like brats. And then when I had my son, he slept over when he was little once, and he's like, that was like the funnest night I ever had. What? What are you saying? So, you see a lot, and you're like, what the heck am I, going through here? So instead of your mother having a conversation with you and saying, hey, this is kind of how I feel about this, and this is what I'm thinking here, and you're like, well, no, this is why I do this stuff, and this is why I'm thinking of this and why I'm thinking of that. She doesn't want relationship, and she even admitted, having a relationship with you is too hard. Her definition of a relationship is everything going her way. That's what a relationship is. Everything going her way. Same as my grandmother. So I was the apple of my grandmother's eye for many years. And then as I grew up, and my favorite Uncle Bill told me what my grandmother was like, him walking in on her in a tent with another man, him seeing her prostitute. My uncle was very scarred by my grandmother. I was talking to a guy yesterday who had his mother walk out on him when he was little. She was just like, see ya, and she turned away and never went back. I'm like, how does a mother do that, right? So my Uncle Steve, too, was a black sheep. It like ran in the family. And what did he do to deserve that, right? My grandmother was not, she was an absolutely awful mother. I remember being a kid and being in Manchester, and my grandmother moved a lot. I remember seeing my Uncle Steve throw his hand through the window. She was, I think, provoking him with me. And then, we're in the kitchen, and this woman is trying to break down the door. She's trying to literally break it down. And my mother had to stand up for my grandmother and fight for her because the mother, the lady found out my grandmother was cheating with her husband. So she had a knife and she wanted to cut my grandmother's face. Honestly, this is stuff I grew up with, guys, and a lot of women have grown up with crazy stuff. And the problem is with the pro-life movement, instead of my mother's generation healing from the crap that happened in that generation, we have taught our daughters just to have an abortion. If life gets hard, just have an abortion. So our generation has had abortions, far and few between, but we have. And then we're just teaching our daughters, instead of learning how to have a relationship, just to have an abortion. Just have an abortion. And I've seen women on social media, especially recently, coming out and saying they hate being a mom, they hate being a single mom. And this is like, okay, so you have no skills, and instead of finding ways to have skills, they have chosen to hate being a mom or not have kids. So we need women to rise up, especially young women, to rise up and teach mothers how to have mothering skills. We have lost a path. I mean, it's been hard enough for me to find support at my generation, okay? And Terry Apner does a good job talking about toxic mothers. When I am on a Facebook group about toxic in-laws, so many girls are talking about what their mother is trying to pull, or their mother-in-law. I mean, we have seen girls saying, my mother-in-law put on a baby shower for herself. It's my baby, but she's having a baby shower for the grandchild. We see very selfish women in my generation trying to still act like kids, trying to still, go out and date and act like they're teenagers, and this is why yesterday I was telling that guy, no, I'm done dating. That is not for me. I mean, we'll see what God does, and I would hope my husband would show up differently and bring reconciliation, but we'll see what God does. But a lot of women do not know how to mother now, and we need the younger generation of women to rise up. So my nonprofit, I am now going to partner with some people. I talked to a lady last week. She's got her organization going. I talked with someone yesterday about her organization, and we are going to partner up. And they don't help with resources. That will be my role. But they have women come in. They do Bible studies. They have a place to talk about stuff. And I also have been wanting to do this, a place that women can talk about relationships. So I already had that in one of the groups I was in. I had been able to talk and had older women speak into my life and just say, yeah, Melissa, I would put boundaries up there. She's taking advantage of you, da, 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 da. So my grandmother, I was the apple of her eye up until I confronted her with stuff that my mother told me and my Uncle Bill told me about my mom. And about her, hanging out with a lot of black men, the big bands, her being very promiscuous, So I talked to my Uncle Bill about it and stuff, and he actually hated my grandmother for what she did. He actually called her a whore and everything. So she I had talked to her, and once I started confronting her, and, she said that, well, I pray the rosary every day, and I have asked God to forgive me and stuff. But, you know, my father once said the only reason why she's changed is she's too old to get men now. So that's how bad it was, guys. But the point is, once I confronted my grandmother, all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose, basically, and I was no longer her favorite. And when I told her I was a Christian, she's like, "No, you're a Catholic because I'm a Catholic." I'm like, "What does that have to do with anything? I'm a Christian." So, trying to get me away from my husband, trying to set me up with different guys. My grandmother would constantly do this. She would talk about how men are just out for one thing. That's it. And that was her experience. So that's the legacy that she left for me. Just that, kind of men just want one thing kind of thing. And so my mother did stick with my father, but there was a lot there that I'll talk about another time. And so what we need to do, ladies, is we need to change things. So my grandmother, who now did not like what I had to say to her, now my brother was no longer the black sheep because he had a daughter, okay? So my father, let's go back to family here. The reason why I said last night my extended family has been the biggest disappointment to me is instead of my father having a conversation with me, he was used to just telling my mother what to do, and she had to do what he said, and she had to do it in order to get along. So when I was like, "You are not doing whatever you want with my kids," he didn't like it. And he disowned me. And not only did he disown me, but he disowned me from the whole entire family. And for being a Christian, so I lost like my Uncle Jim, my uncles and aunts all over the place. And so for doing that, for speaking my mind and for having some principles, he disowned me from the whole entire family, my grandparents, my great aunt Linda, Mike and Colette and everybody in Deerfield. So I have lost an inheritance of a lot of money. Whoops, a ton of money. A ton of land and a lot of money because my father disowned me. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay because I stood for being a Christian. I no longer have an inheritance. And you know what? Scripture is clear that those who have land and money but have a rotten name, all that eventually goes to the righteous. It does in the end. So even if you have money, guys, Kevin Leandro says he's worth millions. That's going to go. You can't control when you live and when you die. When it's your time to go, it's your time to go. God can take it like that. So unless you're going to use your life for God, you're wasting your time. So anyways, he didn't just take my family away for being a Christian. He took every single thing away that you can imagine. And that's just too darn bad. Ladies, you have a right to protect your kids. You have a right if you see something, which I did. I'm like, why is he always wanting to be alone with my firstborn? And I'm like, hey, I'm not comfortable with you being alone with him all the time. He's like, fine. He's like, I won't be alone with him. And then I told my mother, I don't know what his problem is. Would he molest him or what? And I didn't say he was, but I did come out and say, look, this is what's going on to my mother. And of course, she covered for my father as usual. And there were definitely things with my brother that my father totally abused my brother big time. So am I going to trust my father with my sons? I don't think so. Did he earn the right to be a grandfather? No. Did he have a right to be a grandfather after killing my child? No. Did he have a right to have a relationship with me? He didn't even have a relationship with me, ladies. So it was do as I say or hit the highway. And I chose to hit the highway. Do not compromise your mothering in the name of honoring your parents. So my father, if I would have let my sons one, go fishing with my dad or hunting. I knew how he was with my brother. I mean, it was not like you're out all day. You're out all day and there's no turning back. And I felt like one of my sons could not handle that all day, and 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 I was right about that, but he wanted what he wanted, and he didn't care anything about child development or him. He just wanted to look good as a grandfather, and so did my mother. It wasn't really about them, it was just about looking good as a grandparent, right? And so I put my foot down, and I have no problem doing that. And that is part of your job as a mother, guys. Part of your job is to protect your kids. And not only was he abusive toward my brother in many ways, and my sister-in-law said she cannot talk about what my mother had told her. She cannot talk about it. So my sister-in-law doesn't want to F with me. She already started trouble, so she better watch it. But my mother had done awful things to my brother, awful things. And my brother has changed a lot in life, and he's come out better as far as I know. And I have always been proud of his shooting ability and everything. But he has overcome major things in his childhood. And my mother was rotten to him when he was a kid. And I still feel bad that I had to witness that. I had to witness that and couldn't do anything to protect my brother. So they wonder why they couldn't be grandparents, right? They didn't want to own up to anything. They wanted to do whatever they wanted and take no responsibility. And it usually comes out, ladies, with the abortion. You don't just have to heal from the abortion, but you have to heal from your parents' abuse. And they wanted what they wanted, and they didn't want to take responsibility for anything. So they get nothing. And you have to be able to be strong enough to deal with that. Okay, that's what I got for now, guys. And you need to protect your kids from that generational curse. It says that fathers continue to bring a curse to their kids with their sins. So my father, tried to lie about quite a bit with just actually lying about reality. He will lie about reality, and they actually talk about this in psychology as like a psychological issue. I forget the term for it, but it's like here's reality, and then somebody literally can lie to themselves so much that they change the truth of reality. Is it I forget the name of it. It's not coming to me, but it is one of the deepest, most psychotic, most biggest, like, what is it? I don't know. I'll have to look it up and think of the word. But it's one of the worst type of lyings, when someone can sear their conscience like that and just lie. So that was my father. I mean, he looked good on the outside, and behind closed doors was a whole different story outside the bow and arrow shoots. Kids see it. Kids see how inauthentic parents can be. You can see it. So he was charming. He was Mr. Perfect on the outside. And then when he got home, look out. So he was not good to my brother. He wasn't good to me. I mean, he threw me around by my hair. And back in the day, they said that's how your parents loved you. That's how they corrected you. But it was more than that. It was more than that. It was a lot more. So this is why my parents did not get whatever they wanted. And my mother learned this with her mother. Her mother did whatever she wanted with me as a granddaughter. To a point, my dad would not let her come over to the house. He wouldn't let her, do certain things with me. Because she was just honestly a bad example. Honestly, she was. And her bad example did rub off on me for a time until I became a Christian and I learned better. And so my dad would have been better off having me stay away from her even more, because of the way she was such a, such a user in life, such a user of men, and even going in the bedroom, when I was younger with Mac, when she was still with my grandfather and being with him and taking money and all this stuff. So there was a lot, guys, that kids should not even see. And therefore, you have to come out of it and you have to do the work. So that's what I got for today, guys. And I got to run. Thanks for joining me.